All right, there we go.
And
we are officially recording. And so, good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing fantastic. And can you introduce yourself to our viewers that will be watching this today?
Hi, everybody. My name is Bee. I am a multimedia creative producer, and I am having a little startup with my production company called Half Banana Productions. I create a multitude of different visuals, whether it's art or like painting, or I create with like camera and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, kind of dabble in multi-creativity.
My goodness, she's just hitting all the bars, all the corners. You're making it 110% over here.
Thanks.
And how did you get into multimedia work?
Well, I've done something artistic since I was a kid. So whether it was just like drawing or doodling, I even like got into writing for a little bit, creative writing when I was a little bit younger, and eventually picked up a camera when I was like in like teenage years or so. And I just kind of loved it so much from there that I just, always continued to take pictures. I'm not a photographer. I don't like to name myself as a photographer, but I enjoyed like taking pictures and having, something fun to look at and then give it to people hopefully, and they can enjoy it as well. And then when I got into college, that's where I kind of was like, you know what, I think I want to do like making moving images, like not just still photography, because there's a lot that you can do with that as well. And so as I've like gone through, college and now like as a professional career, I really see it as like a way of like another extension of like a paintbrush. So instead of my tools being, a pen and paper or something, I utilize like a camera and lights and a crew and actors to kind of create a scene. So that's what I've really been drawn to, and just anything that helps me create. And it's just another medium that I'm like really finding as a nice outlet for some of my ideas that I've had for a while. So it's been fun.
That's amazing. And how do you like get inspiration? Do you use like the people around you, your scenery, or do you just like think of the ideas on the spot?
So it really just depends. A lot of my ideas in terms of like storytelling that I want to do with like video work, it's just kind of like weird ideas that pop up in my head. Sometimes it's inspired by something, but usually it's just like my personal observations of the world and how I'm interpreting that. And so it's kind of like my way of like communicating, I guess, is I'll take whatever I'm like thinking of or feeling about something and try to create something that can be, recognizable or relatable to someone else. Or if not, it's just kind of an experience. I'm always enjoy the possibility of like, even if something that I create or my art doesn't make sense or it's weird, it's like, at least it was an experience and you hadn't seen it before. And then sometimes it'll be from people around me. Like my dad definitely inspired me with like having me exposed to like X-Files and Star Trek and like a lot of that sort of stuff when I was younger. So that was always really fun. My mom like was always encouraging me to like watch like whatever crazy cartoons that were on or like neat movies or shows. And then my sister was my muse for a little while just because I didn't really have anyone to take a picture of or photography. So I was like kind of my practice with using people in front of the camera. So I really do draw inspiration from just about any little thing. It really just depends on what's the mood, the vibe, the season, it can change and vary. So it's been fun to just let it happen.
And is there a specific genre that you like creating? Like you mentioned Star Trek and the X-Files, and not a big Star Trek fan, but Star Wars is in there in my blood. So a little bit of a sci-fi gal. Is there a specific genre you like working with?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely enjoy sci-fi. It will always have a special place in my heart. And, I appreciate Star Wars for what it is, but I definitely am a Star Trekkie at heart. And yeah, so I really enjoy being able to create your own sci-fi. Is just like, you grew up watching these sorts of things and you're like, wait, I can do that too. It's totally possible within my realm. And I didn't think that it was. And now that I've had people on board with wanting to create it with me too, it's like just makes it that much more like wholesome and fun and like, creating something even better than what I thought it was like when it was a little seed in my own brain. So definitely sci-fi. I really enjoy kind of like avant-garde indie film type stuff as well, depending on, what the project is that I'm working on. But yeah, sci-fi and kind of indie stuff is usually where I'm drawn to.
You got me at indie. I keep watching my little indie films on repeat nowadays,
Yeah, they're
especially
great
with
comfort films.
especially with the pandemic. I was gonna go using the TikTok phrase like the pandemonium, the panorama, anything but the actual word.
Right. Might as
And
well. We're kind of tired of it. Let's replace it with something.
yes. And do you use other forms of media? So like, do you use social media to your advantage when you're doing your work? How do you go through your creative process?
Yeah, so I feel a little bit like a grandma with a lot of things where I'm just like I'm trying to get up to speed with like keeping track. So I do only use Instagram at the moment. I've barely started trying to create a Facebook just because that's how I was getting a lot of actors for my projects. Um, so I really do try to utilize it, and because I have a background in like multimedia, like production is I've learned about like kind of certain formats that you would put on Instagram versus YouTube, and kind of knowing the technicalities of stuff and then utilizing that knowledge to then create and kind of work it into my creative process. So for like Instagram, you can post 3 pictures, and I try to keep it like consistent with the same project that I'm working on for like those particular posts. And yeah, just trying to navigate it. It's always changing. It's always really hard to feel like you're getting it out there, but at the same time, like even if it doesn't, I just enjoyed making it. So people see it, cool, and if not, well, eventually it'll come across somebody's eyes.
I mean, that's exactly how social media should be used. It's ever changing and
Yeah.
kind of scary. Like last year I was making fun of my younger brother for using stuff like TikTok because I never used Vine or Musically. And here I am scrolling for like 4 hours on TikTok. Am I ashamed? Slightly.
Yeah, I know it's fun. People, I think I love social media for that reason, is that it's changing the way we're creating and like communicating with each other. That it has like it's some weird negative sides, which is what I'm working on for like my sci-fi series, but there's also like some benefits that are if you're using it properly, it can be a really fun, great place to meet people like you and me. Like I've never physically met you, but like through social media, we've been able to connect, and I love being able to see like each other's stuff and like what you're posting and what Yasmi is doing. Like even though I'm not there and it's not like connected in that way, it's still great to be able to make those connections through these like spaces. So it's got a good benefit for that for sure.
Small segue that you can always add us on Instagram via the Miha page. So feel free to follow us. And you did mention that your sci-fi project that you've been working on. Would you tell us a little bit more about that? I know that you've had a couple episodes come out.
Yeah, so I'm working on a series that I created called Data Lake, and it's basically I call it like it's inspired through a lot of different shows that I've watched growing up or recently, and it's so fun to be able to create something that like has been sitting and stewing for a long time. And it's basically just like kind of my interpretation of the changes and how we communicate because of social media and technology. They're entertaining episodes, but I also wanted to kind of get people to think about what it is that they do and how they use these certain platforms, because we do it without thinking. We do it, we're all guilty of these little things about how we use it to get connections and bonds with people, making friends, or showing what the latest thing that you made or whatever. So a lot of them will kind of dabble in that, with always kind of being an overlining or underlining story of their this ominous so the series is basically just like kind of a mixture of like the Twilight Zone, Black Mirror. Anybody who enjoys those sorts of like shows or stories will probably find it kind of interesting.
Black Mirror really gets me thinking nowadays, especially since they had like that interactive movie. Scared
Fun
me.
stuff. It's fun and scary, and I love it. So I'm really excited for my series. It's coming together way better than I thought that it would, and everyone that I've had like writing for me on it and like contributing to it and collaborating has like found a way for them to all connect, even though they're not connected. So it's like an anthology series. And so the development of it has been just really fun. So I'm excited to share it. I'm hoping to have it done by end of June, possibly. So we'll have episodes 2 through 5 for the series. And then episode 1 recently won Best Gainesville Film for the Sci-Fi Festival. So I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was a really
Guys,
tough competition, honestly. So the fact that I was like up there still is like really great. And I'm excited to, continue doing that, is like being able to not only share that like win with like myself for having like put it all together, but also like the people who helped me create it. Cause like when it comes to video production, like every single person on a team is so important. It doesn't matter whether you're the person who's like going to get coffee, or if you're like handling the camera, or if you're, facilitating things. Like every person, it really does take a village to create these like beautiful visual like movies and stories. So I want to try and put that as much as I can into this sci-fi series that I'm working on as well.
but you did mention that you were working with your team and that every piece of your team was extremely helpful, and that everyone was very important for the roles that they played, which is a
Yeah.
very great connection. And that you did mention that earlier, that you met some of your actors via social media,
Mhm.
which is very fun considering that your piece is talking about like both the benefits and the dangers, as well as like the underlining meaning and the sci-fi of it all. So
Yeah.
what are obstacles that you do face when you are going through like your process anyway?
Mm, yeah. I guess sometimes I think the biggest challenge is just my own like weaknesses, and like, getting like discouraged or like too tired or burnt out or like not inspired enough to really follow through with it. So I try to channel that as much of like that exhaustion and just turn it into like a very aggressive, high functioning anxiety running type person, which is probably not the best advice to give to anybody, but for me it works and it gets me going, and I can, I'm out of that like headspace a lot more now. So just keeping that momentum can be really difficult. Because definitely last summer there was like a moment where I was just like, I don't actually know if I want to keep making stuff, or not really like feeling up to doing it. So for a thesis project I did for school, I did a stop motion because like I really did want to continue trying to do my Data Lake series, but I didn't have my actors. Like COVID had just hit, right? So I didn't have like as much of my tools as I would have liked to. So I had to kind of just like, recoil and like find it again and like be artistic within my own little space before I feel like I could burst out of that and start bringing people on and like finding um, your own encouragement and like support, so that you can then like share that with other people. So for me, that's kind of always the biggest like obstacle to overcome, is yourself sometimes. So
I think it's also very important to talk about like your mental health when you are working within the arts, because I
mhm.
don't think people reference it as often, especially like with high functioning anxiety, because I do have that as well, where I'm like, I'm so stressed out of the idea of failing that I literally forced myself to keep going, even though I probably should have taken more breaks than I gave myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, everyone like sees the beautiful piece that comes at the end of it, but it takes so much damn, I don't even know what it is, but something that you have to go through in order to get to that point. So yeah, it's something that I feel like should be talked about more and like expressed, even if it doesn't need to, everyone's dealing with their things in their own way. So I feel like utilizing art as like a way to kind of relieve that is helpful. It's just can take a little bit of extra work sometimes.
It really does. And I did want to ask, how is it, how do you feel being like a Latina or like someone of color in your field? Do you think that there's more benefits or like positives or negatives depending on it?
It really depends. And this is like, there is a part of that that might step on a couple of toes in like my experience, but like a positive is that I definitely like, even though there aren't very many of me, when I am able to have someone in my circle who has similar background as me, whether they're Black, like Hispanic, or whatever background that they are, I really want to like help them and just like, it's like I know that it can be really difficult to get like a job or like get your foot in the door for certain things. But if I'm able to help elevate people to do what it is that I want to do, or something similar, or even something completely unrelated, like utilizing like the episodes that I have to help, add those to people's resumes or portfolios, to be like, hey, like I have like a good group of like women of color and people of like all sorts of different backgrounds like creating this, and I want them to like be like, stand by that and be proud and be like, we created this for, you know, other people to enjoy it. And also hopefully the stories come across and the actors and the characters that we choose also kind of portray that, because no one else is going to tell that sort of story. So we need to be able to help each other do that. And like, I guess another thing, like I've had a lot of great opportunities to get really great, like, you know, part-time jobs or intern or volunteer for, you know, indie films, or just helping on set for like student projects, or, you know, having clients come up to me and be like, hey, I really like your work. Can you help me do something? So I feel like that's been really great. And I also feel like there's kind of this subtle underlining feeling of like, well, she is a woman of color, so thus we feel like obligated to hire her because they have to fit their own status quo or their own, you know, statistical diversity thing that they're trying to do. So I, you know, it's great, but it's also like, I try to use that to my advantage, but I also want to be able to like not have that be a thing anymore. It's like, no, I'm just good at what I do and everything else is secondary. So, you know, I hope that that's something that'll be less of a thing and I can just be hired for just my abilities and my work ethic, I guess.
And I'm like, I completely understand that. While I am more white showing, I still like on resumes, I have like 2 last names because Puerto Ricans come from both sides of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that like on job interviews, and they'll be like, oh, I know a Cabrera, I know a Rivera, maybe you know them. And I'm like,
No.
there's a billion of us. I don't
Right.
know how to help you there. Like, you know how like there's specific like media tropes that like once you see it, you kind of see it everywhere, and you're like, it leaves an uncomfortable feeling after a while.
Mm-hmm.
One of those that I noticed after a long time was the diversity pile, where they get a character and the character could be Hispanic, Black, whatever, but then they start piling on things like
To fit them in there.
disabilities,
Yeah.
like disabilities, LGBT, like they start piling it all in one character. While they do exist, the remaining of the cast is very whitewashed, but that one character that has like 17 different diversities. So
and that's like one of the things that like I really want to push when I'm starting it now, because I want to continue that throughout my career of anything that I do, a project, whether it's, you know, with painting to photography to filming, is that I want to see those people. There's no excuse in my mind why these certain characters don't exist in real life, in like the, you know, theatrics that we create. Like you have every tool in your like crayon box and you decide to choose the same 5 colors every time. And so it's like, I'm done, I'm tired of that. Like I don't care. I'm not gonna sit back and like just make that the default or something, you know, like my default is what I want to see. And so I'm gonna make sure that I try to create that as much as possible. And that's one of the things that we have the power to do, is to start making that more of a normal thing by creating, you know, even though I am a small little production company, like I'm starting it now so that later it's just known that that's what I do and I create. There's no need to like change it just because it's the normal, it's the default for me.
And one question I really do want to ask, what are like characters that you see in like TV shows and media that you think, wait, that's me?
Oh goodness.
Like,
yeah.
How do you like, which characters do you see yourself in that you think are really good moments of representation?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I've been seeing a lot more and it's really exciting. And honestly, it comes from like cartoons. Like that's one of my favorite ways to get representation, is because I grew up really loving cartoons as a kid, and there's some now where it's like, man, I wish I had that when I was younger. Like it would have been great to have seen that and have the kind of, you know, seeing like a Black boy have just a good wholesome time. You know, it's not anything, you know, just trying to change the imagery that's always attached to certain demographics of people, you know. Like I know a recent show, the first one that comes to mind is Craig from the Creek, I think it's called, on Cartoon Network, and it's super cute. It's just like him and his friends, they're like hanging out like some creek and they have like their little adventures, but the lead character is a Black boy and his family, you know, is completely Black, and it's just nice to like see that, you know, it's just having like a nice nuclear family and like kind of normalizing that like these characters do exist in the world. So I would hope that even though I'm not a Black, you know, male passing boy or anything like that, but like having that sort of representation, I'm sure is like warming somebody's heart somewhere. And it just like makes me happy that like that's out there. So I'd really like to be able to start, doing that as well with my projects is, just showing it and they're out there.
I love that because one of that like moment for me was the most recent like little Spider-Man cartoon movie where it's like Miles Morales, he is an Afro Latino, he is a Puerto Rican boy, and I was like, oh my god, we have a Puerto Rican Spider-Man, we have an Afro Puerto Rican Spider-Man. That was huge for me. I was like, oh my goodness, he speaks Spanish. Like his mom is Hispanic. Morales is a very Puerto Rican name. I got so excited just seeing that. And then now they're actually adding like, I think Netflix is adding like a new superhero and it's a female Hispanic superhero. And I was like,
I'm excited. Let's go.
Goodness.
It's about damn time. Come on now.
I was just like, oh my goodness, we're getting there, guys.
I really love the idea of like being on a team of people who are like creating these things. So yeah, definitely like having like knowing that was like your personal connection with it is amazing. I think that's so beautiful. So for sure, I hope that I can continue that like, momentum to start just pushing it for the things that I see. One of my favorite books, I think a connection for me, like a specific moment, is there was a book series called Scythe Trilogy. And one of the characters in the book is non-binary. And like the way, it was so beautiful, the way that he described like how this person like wants to be addressed, whether they're like male or female in that moment. And the character was just like, oh, it depends on if the sun is out or if the moon is out. And so like for me, they seemed like because the way they described the characters that they're from like the Madagascar island, and it's kind of like a story about like kind of in the future when like disease and war and poverty and all that stuff has kind of been defeated. And so there's kind of a lot of like mix of people at this point. And so I imagine if they're from Madagascar that they're probably of like a tan skin tone, and then also they're non-binary, and they kind of just flip, they're kind of fluid at the same time. So like seeing that sort of representation was just really nice. It was like I can relate to this character a lot, and I just thought it was really well like done, where it wasn't harped on that like was the thing about them. It's just it happens to be part of the story and made like a really great character that I could connect to.
Oh, that is, I already added it to my little list of books.
Highly recommend. It's so good. Every single one of them is just like, what? Like, mind you, I could go without the typical boy falls in love with girl type thing, but the story around that is just really great. It's visually really interesting too.
I'm just saying, I love my good little romance, but like the book I actually mentioned to you about like a week ago or so, that one was a romance, but not in the romance that I expected.
Yay, I'm excited.
So, yeah, there was a whole moment where they're like, she is in with boy, but also there is a cute girl in the corner. And I think she's cute too. Like the character's like, I don't know what to do about this information. Like that was the first time I saw for like a bisexual main character. I didn't see that often. I started immediately sharing it with all my like friends who are in the with like LGBT community. I'm like, recommend, very good. I don't recommend bad books. So I'm like, please read.
I rarely recommend a book, but if I do, it's because it's good.
I'm just like, it's good, guys. Come on. We got some solid representation. And they mentioned like they were tan and everyone had like black hair and brown eyes. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Beautiful.
Like they're all colored too. Wait, the representation.
I think the artist or the author of those books, isn't she Black? I think I don't know. I might have read about her at some point, but I don't remember.
I'm not sure. I need to look into it. I think I looked into it and I think she might be from India. I'm not sure though. I want to go ahead and verify before I
right for sure
confirm.
No false information here.
No false information, but she wrote beautifully. It was a very beautiful story, and very fantasy. If you like fantasy, very good book. I think it was called Girl, Snake, and Thorn. Like I think that's what it was called. Very beautiful book. Very pretty book. Like cover.
Yeah, it was great. I was even just inspired by that. I was just like, I would read that.
So good. I recommend it. I immediately started calling all my like friends in my LGBT community pals. I'm like, read. I'm not Like, I know I recommend a lot of like boy girl love stories. I'm sorry, but like this
This one's for y'all.
this is for y'all. Like, here you go. Like, picked it up and I was just like, oh, is this another like Bridgerton story? Let's see. Was mistaken, but
A good
happily
surprise.
surprised.
Yeah.
Happily. I was like, wow, okay, cute little love story. But it's really nice seeing that type of like representation for everybody. Even though if I don't personally feel it, I'd like seeing it because I'm like, I get to understand more of the community that way as well, which
Yeah,
is
for
good
sure.
for people who are still like questioning, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or learning
100%.
about themselves.
Yeah, I love those sorts of things that happen. Those like little moments where you're like, yeah, even if it's not for me, you can be respectful and a good person enough to be like, oh, this might make someone else feel better as well too. So yeah, that's always the best feeling.
And quality is quality wherever it comes from. I'm like, yes, this is good. 10 out of 10.
Would recommend. That's
And
awesome.
before anything else, I want to ask, where can people see your work so that way they can do a quick look over and be like, yes, I would like to see more representation of people that look like me, because there's could be young girls or non-binaries or gender fluids that look at you and be like, you're me.
Yeah,
How do I
hope
find your
so.
work?
Yeah, definitely. It like gives me chills thinking that that's a possibility. So I'm just like, oh yes, please do. I would love that. So yeah, I have an Instagram. You can find my work at Half Banana Productions. In between the words, there's underscores. I'm sure you'll put that somewhere, so that's fine.
Yes.
But you'll find me on Instagram there, and I'm also on YouTube where I post my latest videos. Also titled Half Banana Productions. On my YouTube, you can find my website, LinkedIn if you really wanted to know about that. And I also have a Redbubble shop that I use to all of the like painted artwork, original art that I made. I like wanted to put it on like t-shirts and bags and stuff like that. So that's also an option. And so yeah, I'm just kind of all over the place.
To buy. Makes note to buy because I'm always looking for new bags out here. Have a small addiction to tote bags. Just
there's a lot of good tote bags on there for sure. I'm sure you'll find something you like.
Of course. And as she mentioned, we will also leave all the links down below so you can find them easy. Remember, she likes to like find new actors through social media. So if you want to work with her, collab, just send her a DM. She's super nice. She actually messages really quickly.
I'm always available.
So just like slide in the DMs, be like, hey, I would love to work with you on such and such. And she's amazing. Like, she's
open
super
to all
sweet.
collab. Thank you.
Guys, like, truly check out her stuff. They're so good. Like, I love it. And is there anything else you want to mention to our beautiful Latinx folks over here, or non-Latinx folk?
Yeah, I don't know. I really love everything that, Yasmiha is doing, and I'm just happy to be like a part of this little circle that you have. I love seeing all of your guys' work and just continuing to push the same narrative that we need to just keep doing. I'm going to do it in my way of like doing it visually with like, movies and that sort of stuff. And you guys are going to be doing it in, fashion and social media branding. And I think it's beautiful. And I just love seeing it. Like, it's good for my eyes to see that representation and knowing that we're not doing this sort of stuff alone. It's taking a collective set of mindset for this. So I'm excited.
No, we're doing so many new things at Yes Mia. We have so much planned, so we're looking forward to it. We're planning things from like this year all the way up to like currently maybe 2023.
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
Oh my God, we're so excited to show everything to everybody. And hopefully you guys are very excited too. We want to spread the representation as well, just give everyone a voice. And especially we're hoping to also work with all of our past people that we have interviewed for these like videos, for like smaller clips maybe on Instagram, but hopefully we'll be working with everybody again soon, just because we would like to have a refresher and like renew and be like, hey, we have a new audience for you.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait, man. You guys are doing awesome. Just keep at it.
Same goes to you. I can't wait. I better see your movies in like the big screen soon. I want to see it all.
It'll happen. It's getting there slowly but surely.
Me and Kira will be the first like people buying a ticket. And we're here to watch. So
Yay.
thanks everyone. Thank you guys for watching, and thank you again for meeting with us and telling us all about you and your wonderful projects.
Thank you so much for having me.
So once again, check down the links below, and hopefully we'll see you guys again soon. Bye.